All right, what's going on, guys? It's gonna be part 3 of this building a wiring harness for the JZ. So I'm gonna show you guys where I'm at. All right, guys, so far, like you saw previously, everything's done on this side of the motor. Everything's all wired up nicely. The only thing I did do was I actually ended up moving my crank and my boost connector over here to beside the boost control instead of tucked in behind the thermostat. Back here, kind of where my wideband connection is. And the main reason for that is just, well, if I ever have to change anything, or then I'm not into having to actually pull off the alternator to get to it. So everything else, I'll braid it up through, down. Now this is for my intake air temperature. That's all done. This right here is for my TPS. This is pretty much one of the last connectors that I need to connect. You got oil pressure right here. Then you got NOx sensor back here. You got the other NOx sensor over here, right there. And then you have your starter wire right here. And then these are all the grounds. These are all the power grounds and the ECU ground. All these are going to be grounded to this block right here with an eyelet. So that's that. And then, like I said, this is the TPS. And then up here, you got injector 1, injector 2, injector 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you have your cam sensor. Now remember that cam sensors, NOx sensors, right there and there, and the crank sensor over here, all need to be shielded wire. Okay, so for instance, like this connector down here, so I'll shield it all the way up and over. Kind of see it in through this braided cable. Now, like I said, the only thing that I have to wire up is going to be this throttle position sensor. Now, the biggest difference is the standalone ECU only requires 3 pins, or a 3-pin TPS. So this is a standard one, and as you can see, it's 4 pins. That's because it has 2 signal wires. So one of these wires will be being deleted, and then what I'll do in the new connector is throw one of these in, and then I have some weather grommets that actually go in here for when you're not using a wire. So we'll get going on that. Now this is just for purposes of obviously wiring up the TPS, and this way I know how much and what wiring I need. Now, let me see if I can get you guys close down in here so you guys can multiple view this. Okay, got my 3 pins. Just gonna strip these back right quick. like I said before, there's one wire that you don't end up using. So what it's gonna be like, the connector is plugged in like this. Very bottom one, ground. The next one up, you're not gonna use it. Then the next one over, that's signal TPS signal to the ECU. And then the furthest one over from that is your 5 volt. So, like I said before, if you have a plug that you're not using, here's a rubber weather grommet. And then here's the little plastic piece that came in the EMU kit. And what it does is it literally just acts kind of like a wire essentially. Now, let's pop this in here. And you don't have to worry about any water getting in. Just like that. See? Perfect. Now, I can heat shrink this cable. And just like that. Now you have a TPS. Now I'm not going to connect this right yet because obviously I'm going to be putting this intake back off. Okay, so a couple things to note when doing this is that you're still obviously going to need wires going to either the body, the battery, things along that line. So your alternator is going to go to your body. Like it needs to go to your battery, it needs to go to switch power. So that's not getting connected directly. Your starter needs to go to the starter solenoid relay in the car, so that when the key turns, it sends out a signal to be able to turn this. All of the grounds for the ECU, okay, get grounded together, except for the sensor grounds. When you see sensor ground, that's running from one of your sensors down to the sensor ground in the actual EMU. So that's that. Now, for wiring your injectors, you wire them all up, all your signal wires, 1 through 6, right? Then you run a power lead for each one of these, coming down to here. Okay, all of them, all of them, all of them. Then all of those injector powers get tapped to 1, and then they get put into 1 wire. Now this wire will get ran to the injector relay, or fuse, and the same thing goes with the coils, okay? So starter, alternator, injector power, coil power, all go to the battery, body, or some part of the car, okay? So those are things to remember. Like I said, now that that's wired up, literally the only thing that I have to wire now is just obviously pop these grounds on, no big deal. But I just need to wire up my coils. Now the only thing holding me back from wiring up my coils is, like I've said previous, this is a wasted spark design, so it uses 1 coil pack for 2 plugs. Now, I realistically want to go sequential or individual coil. I know that you can do either the Yaris conversion, like the Toyota Yaris. You can get them out of there from like a junkyard or brand new, and they all work. Or the LQ9 coil pack conversion. So, the only reason why I don't have this wired up is literally strictly because I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. But other than that, that's how you build a wiring harness from scratch. So the other thing to note is that all your things like your boost controller, your VVTi, and your idle solenoid. So I'm also gonna have an idle solenoid that's attached here on like the back of the intake because I deleted my drive-by wire and I want it to be able to run good in the winter, or idle good, and all that other jazz. So make sure those all get 12 volts. So those will be ran to power when the ignition's on, so they're not always on. And yeah, so actually terminating the sensors, that's all done. Now it's the fact of terminating all of this, which is not a big deal because everything's labeled, and that's all actually kind of more or less the easy part. So what I do need to do is just do my boost controller, or not my boost controller, my boost gauge. So it's an electronic boost gauge, and it's the one wire that I forgot to run when I did all this. So what I'm gonna end up doing probably is running it in a separate loom, running it up, over, and around, and we're gonna go ahead and bang that out. All right guys, so I just actually realized that it's a good thing that I didn't put my boost controller over there because it really doesn't have that long of a cable. So what I'm actually gonna do is I'm gonna rig this. So it's an electronic boost controller. This is a sending unit. Vacuum line goes here from the boost line, and then it electronically sends a signal inside the cabin. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna find somewhere to mount this, somewhere over in this section, maybe like this. And then what I'm actually gonna do is I'm gonna run a line from here over to one of these ports that I'm not using anymore that were used for the charcoal canister. And what that actually does is runs underneath and then has an outlet over here on this side of the motor. Can't really go wrong with that. So that's what I'm gonna do for my boost controller, for anybody who's curious, or boost gauge, like I said several times. So that is literally everything for the wiring. So if I have any other revisions or anything like that, obviously I'll let you guys know in the future. And I'll probably do a video of me doing the coil wires will probably happen at some point in time. It just probably won't be part of how to build an engine harness. But yeah, so like literally, like I said guys, that's literally what it comes down to. It's not that hard, it takes not that long. That's literally a built harness, like, so let's start over from one side, give it one last overview here. Alternator, boost controller connector, crank sensor connector. This is the actual boost controller, 3-port. Then it runs like these, run up together. Oh, sorry, up in there. Coolant temp, runs up, over, clean, down. VVTi, okay. Comes down. Then this is where it tees out. So here we got intake air temperature sensor. Here we have the throttle position sensor, which is gonna go up like this, okay. Then we have oil pressure switch. Then we have knock sensor number 1, knock sensor number 2, starter, injector 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and cam sensor, okay? And that's it. That's it. Everything else I deleted, literally. No more oil pressure switch, no more power steering, garbage, solenoid, jizz, jazz, whatever the hell you want to call it. Portional steering. Oh yeah, anybody who's wondering and they own an IS300 and they're wondering if they can run without a portional power steering valve, yes you can. I unplugged mine on my IS300 3 or 4 days ago just to see what would happen, and the steering actually feels 100% better. So don't be worried about that if you are. And yeah, thanks for watching guys. If you guys have any questions or anything like that, just let me know. I guess the one last thing to note, and it's the only resistor I've had to put in on anything, is actually the resistor for the VVTi wire. Or it's not a resistor, it's a diode, flashback diode. And that's just no magnetic fields interfere with that signal, because that's a very important signal. Other than that, guys, it's basic. It's like I said, it's basic. You know what I mean? Like, even this diagram, everything, if you have a common knowledge, I wouldn't be worried about it. So the last thing that I have to do is do these connectors. So you know what? Maybe I might just make actually a 4th part video. If you guys want a 4th part, let me know and I'll show you how to pin all these connectors and where they actually go on the EMU. And I'll also do the coils. If not, I really don't care. It is what it is. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Really appreciate it. Have a great day.